Welcome to my humble abode. I'm Yorkie the Talespinner, and this is Tales Over Coffee, where we start the day together with a narrative game and a cup of coffee, in the hope that we can welcome a blessed day. And this is the continuing tale of Suzerain, of Anton Rain's presidency of Sordland. That time away that I took in hospital seems to have meant I've forgotten a lot of things, and I've kind of halfway changed directions and halfway not, which means that this is going to be a disaster. Well, if you've seen my Your Mileage May Vary, The Good Ending, you know that the story is the story. It's a disaster. That is the story. Let's see what actually happens. Balance of power, Ethan Mercopa. Right. We have the opening of the Benfi Festival, Benfi High Arts Centre. Our motorcade slowly made its way towards the magnificent Benfi High Arts Centre. Night was falling and the festival was about to begin. I flipped through the brochure that had been given to us at the hotel. On the front page was a face of Curtin Lest, Mayor of Henrica. He was a Benfi native who had a long-standing relationship with the city's current mayor and had been personally invited to make tonight's opening speech. The Benfi Festival was one of the biggest events of the year. I'm trying to remember, was Curtin Lest on our hit list? It originally marked the start of the annual religious pilgrimage, a weeks-long journey still undertaken by devout tourists. But today it was better known as a cultural celebration that drew thousands of revellers to the city. There were film screenings, concerts, theatre, dance performances, art exhibitions, and celebrities stood at nightly galas. The opening ceremonies were broadcast on TV and watched by millions. As the car slowed, a coterie of reporters and security guards rushed to meet us. I turned my attention to Monica. Since I had refused to let her make the opening speech, her attitude toward me had changed. She now only spoke to me if I asked her a question, or if it was something important concerning the children. Are you still angry about my decision? She didn't reply at all. She clearly did not want to pursue the topic any further. As soon as Serge opened the door, we were enveloped by the roar of the crowd. Ah, that's right. We wanted to make the speech, but we felt, understandably, that there was too much political tumult involved in it. The next few minutes were a blur of handshakes, photos, and reporters' questions. The onlookers cheered us as we walked the red carpet to the newly built arts centre. We followed the guards through the cavernous white halls until we came to a set of arched doors leading to the auditorium. We waited outside as security did a quick sweep of the area, then headed in. I'd been asked to make a quick set of remarks and shooting Curtin Lest. I beckoned Monica to join me on the podium. I'm going to find my seat. That's not a good look, Monica. Anger, I understand, but that's for privacy. Monica brushed past me, took her seat in the front row, and crossed her arms. I walked along to the podium. I spoke for just a minute regarding a paragraph my speechwriter had churned out. About the importance of the festival and the Benfi to Sordland. I concluded by inviting Curtin Lest, the Mayor of Henrica, to the podium. I stepped down and joined Monica in the front row. Her arms were still folded. Welcome to the first day of the Benfi Festival. He paused for a moment to let the crowd cheer, and his eyes briefly met mine. Nod. This is a night for the people of Benfi, indeed for the people of Sordland, to put aside their differences and come together in celebration. Yet as we unite for the festivals, we must remember the real reason we are gathered here. The crowd fell silent, people giving their full attention to what he had to say. This festival was founded around the principles of our cherished religion, Neurity. Yet over the years it has been severed from its sacred roots and become something else, something more perverse. An excuse for public drunkenness and grotesque displays of flesh, an occasion for young women to parade their bodies and engage in lascivious behaviour. As he went on, I could see Monica becoming increasingly agitated. What in the hell is he talking about? Lascivious behaviour? What century does he think we're living in? I'm not going to tell her to be quiet. I don't want to tell it. I don't like either of those. Honestly, I would agree with her. I would have said you have a point. Let it be for now. Monica turned back to a frown on her face. Perversion hidden under the guise of art is not befitting this beautiful city of... The crowd was becoming restless. Many of the younger attendees were murmuring in disagreement, while a few of the older ones were nodding vigorously. As I said, perversion hidden under the guise of art is not to be enough. The hall fell silent. Monica rose and continued. Mr. Lest, it is not young women who are a disgrace to this fine festival, but you. Ooh. Wow. Well... She just went nuclear. She just went nuclear. The First Lady attacking someone who has importance like that during his speech opening at the Benfi Festival. That's nuclear. At this point, you're trapped in two positions. You can either... Well... Let's look at the different positions. I could sit there and say nothing. I don't know what's going to come up as options. I haven't even finished reading what she said. I could sit there and say nothing, in which case I look just weak. I look just weak. It's not going to go well for the presidency at all if you do that. It looks like in the environment that he's created, you can't control your woman. That's it. Game over. I could stop her. I could make her sit down. That immediately sacrifices anything I'm trying to do on addressing gender inequality. Absolutely anything. That's it. Gone. And it also kills the marriage. Or, if the option comes up, I could support her. I don't think it can be done diplomatically, but that might be a possibility. By which I mean without actually raging at him. But that might be a possibility. However... that will kill any support he has for me. It may garner some support from women and those aligned with them, but they're not that powerful at the moment. The thing is, if I don't support her, if I stop her, I'm not even sure that saves me from his wrath, because that happened. His support, honestly, his support is gone. That's it. Because my wife went nuclear. You and your backwards puritanical attitudes, which have been holding this country back for so long. I'm already supporting gender inequality, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, members of the Republic. Your president. If given the chance, is about to stand fully behind and supporting his wife and addressing gender equality, and this may well sink everything for the future. No and no and no. Those are not the options. Those are three options, but you're ignoring the half that I've just said I will do. Of them, I'm not going to tell her to stop. I'll watch. Maybe bide my time. Monica turned to face the audience, speaking loud enough to be heard without a microphone. Women of Sordland, we must not let people like Mr. Lest use religion as a justification to demean and oppress us. They were also addressing religion as well, so there is that. Our time has come. Choked gasps ran through the crowd. A few people rose and applauded Curtin Lest, who waited to speak. I think Mrs. Rain is forgetting her place. What do you think my place is, Mr. Lest? The kitchen. The festival is not about your retrograde traditions. We're living in the modern times now. It's 1954. And it isn't your place to decide how the people of Benfi, especially the women, should be celebrating their own festival. Let her continue. I want to support her, but actually that's a good point. Yes, do nothing. It might make me look weak. I may have to embrace supporting her afterwards rather than now. One mistake that a lot of allies make is speaking over, speaking for, rather than boosting signals. There are many who will speak on behalf of people with mental health issues who do not have mental health issues, speak for autistics who are not autistic, instead of boosting the voices of those who do. And the same goes for racial minorities, the same goes for gender minorities, and so on and so forth. Boost the voice of those who have a right to speak. I'm not a woman. She is. I support her. Do nothing. I looked at the podium to see Curtin Lest's piercing gaze on me. There would surely be a price to pay for this. Mr. President, could you please control your wife before she embarrasses herself any further? Now is the time. You know what, Curtin? My wife is absolutely right. Monica looked at me, surprise registering on her face. Thank you, Anton. I turned to Curtin. No. Your task was to give an opening speech, not a moral lecture. I will finish my speech if you allow it, Mr. President. That's up to the people of Nice, hand it to them, isn't it? I turned around to look at the crowd. The people immediately started booing Curtin. He ignored them and continued his speech. Benfi has always been a beacon of culture, tradition and religion. Many battles have been fought over this precious city. Army after army has tried to claim it for their own, but we fought back and won each time. And you see, my support of her was to boost her. She's right. Not add on to it. I don't need to. It's not my place right now. She is. And if I can give her a bigger part in politics, I need to do that. We stand here thanks to the strong men who were able to protect their families, their lands, and their way of living. Every day I praise God that we have succeeded so far. Scattered applause broke out from some of the older members of the audience. I leaned over to Monica. I praise God he's only allowed to speak for another 2 minutes. Monica stifled a short laugh. Yet the traditions that form the very fabric of our society are being tested even as I speak. I looked pointedly at Monica. We must stay true to our values so that Sordland can prevail, so that Benfi can prevail. With these at the forefront, I am convinced that Sordland will continue to be the greatest nation in the world. I invite every single one of you to celebrate our roots and our traditions at this holy Benfi Festival. I hereby declare the festival open. Praise God, praise Sordland, praise Benfi. Amagana Veskorth. Vector Sizdar. Most of the people in the hall finished the decades-old saying, including me. Monica's lips moved, but she didn't say the words out loud. He exited the stage as the band struck up the official festival anthem. I spent the rest of the evening alternately watching the festivities and conversing with local politicians. By the time we got back to the hotel, I was exhausted. But thanks to the festivities still raging outside and the sound of Monica tossing and turning beside me, I couldn't sleep at all. Well, our gender equality moves just took on a whole new pace, didn't they? Yeah, political. Well, and deploying special forces of Vernon. Raklovets Velen. President Smolak has announced that the city of Vernon has been put under curfew along with 7 other towns on the northeast of the country. The Vezek Army has deployed specially trained military forces to combat that these shouldn't be there, in to combat the militant organization known as the Bloodish Freedom Front. Velen has increased its efforts in fighting terrorism with aerial campaigns and ground operations targeting BFF militants and their hidden bases. This operation will surely have consequences for the region, particularly for the neighbouring countries of Lesbia, Rumburg, and particularly Sordland, which has a large population of Bloodish people. Alright, report from Estord, protests and looting. Protests and occasional looting continues in the regions of Nagis. The police reports that the violence has been minimised, and the situation is mostly under control. Estord Police Force reports that several militants have been hiding among protesters and are being watched. Gang violence reduced. The Ministry of Interior has reported that the police raid on the Skinner and Coronellis cartel supply chains, their activities have reduced in the region. Those operations were only possible as a result of the new resources we received from the administration. It has allowed the local police force to launch inside investigations, purging the corrupted officials and getting information about criminal networks at the Ministry of the Interior. Alright, back to the capital. Downtime at home. Residents of President of Sordland, Hall Sword. It felt like eternity since the Benfi Festival, had it really been less than 24 hours. I was at home now, drinking an afternoon coffee. On my balcony, a stack of papers lay by my side. I picked them up one by one, reading and rereading articles about the festival. Some of the newspapers were merciless against Monica for interrupting Curtin during his speech. A few even called for her to be barred from political matters. The exact opposite needs to happen, because anything to the opposite has been sunk. There is no point in trying to play like this didn't happen. Like we didn't support her too. Because that, as soon as she went nuclear, we either had to put her down or support her. Yes. Others expressed their support. In any event, I was relieved that the incident hadn't reflected too badly on me. I was putting the last newspaper down as Monica joined me on the balcony. Listen, can we talk a bit? Sure, sit down. Don't presume, just sit. Monica sat and picked up the nearest newspaper. She pointed to a particularly insulting headline on the front page. I never in a million years would have wished for this, Anton. I just want to thank you for supporting me and for apologise for creating such a spectacle. All I wanted was to bring the people of Sordland together, the way you're able to, but not like this. Her eyes were getting moist. A single tear fell on the newspaper. I understand the shock, Monica, but this is not a time for weakness. We have to face this now. This is our future now. But this may not be the time to say that. It's true. We need to be stronger. You need to be the strong woman you were. Perhaps controlled a little bit more, not by me, but by yourself, to be a little more diplomatic. But yes, the strong woman you were. But maybe these are the time for tears, because you are in shock. Leaned forward and wiped tears from my eyes. She clasped my hand to her face. Oh, Anton. Her eyes filled with gratitude. I could see she slept as little as I had since the festival. Thank you. One more thing, you know how stubborn I am. Perhaps the festival wasn't the proper form to air my views on women's rights, but I still need to do this, Anton. Yes, you do. I want to officially adopt this cause as First Lady. Absolutely, you must. So actually get involved in politics, not just give impromptu speeches. I could even help your education minister with those reforms she's working on. I know this is something you're passionate about as well. Can I count on you? Of course, yes. There's no point in turning back. It's done. It's done. Oh, Anton, this means so much to me. Monica hugged me tightly, and I felt some of the past day's tension melt away. Thank you. A noise came from the balcony door. We both turned our heads to see Diana standing there. Mama, I'm hungry. Let's go to the kitchen, baby. We'll make Papa the best snack ever. Yeah. They left the balcony and returned half an hour later with a large cookie. Diana had written my name on it in icing. Sweet. As I sipped my coffee and nibbled cookie, I thought I had made the right choice. Things were going to get harder. Is my life at home was somewhat peaceful. There is that, but there's also this was a cause of ours. We were just trying to be diplomatic, and then it went nuclear. I'm sorry I keep saying it went nuclear, but I think that. First Lady steps up. Benfi Festival is now in full motion. The festival goers are enjoying the many attractions set up. However, this year's Benfi Festival started eventfully. Mayor Lest's opening speech was interrupted by the First Lady, Monica, who stood up to the remarks made by the mayor after he declared the festival activities perversion. The crowd absolutely loved the response from the First Lady, leaving the mayor embarrassed. Alright, we've got a report in the whole sword. Positive presidential approval rating, nice. Has that gone up a little on the economy? A new approval poll has shown that we have landed above a 50% presidential approval rating. Our administration's good performance has been confirmed with a diverse poll taken by 1,000 respondents from all regions of Sordland. Nice. That's got to be the highway. Oh, economic report. The Ministry of Statistics, along with the Ministry of Economy and the Central Bank, have delivered a preliminary economic status detailing the recession has slowed significantly, and the system is likely to reach stability soon if the current progress is maintained. Mr. Hall said the signs were good, but more needed to be done. What we can do is minimal, but there might be something. Occasion access to Earlery Base. Preparations began in Earlery Air Force Base to expand hangars and restructure the security of the airbase in order to welcome Occasion planes in the short future. Occasion security and logistics professionals have already been welcomed to the base to work with Swordish officials. Aside from the fact that they have donated money to offered monetary support, having their personnel there also adds income. It's minor, but income to the local economy there. Refugees of Vernon. Reports from our border in Wessex City, Vernon, showed there were about 1,000 people running away from Wessex military forces towards the Swordish border. Budget allocation of Swordish armed forces, White Room, Maroon Palace. To determine the current situation of the military and its spending policy, we had a meeting in the White Room. Peter, Valken, and Josef were seated. General Valken, Mr. Lancia, let's get started with the briefing. Very well, Mr. Vice President. We have prepared a briefing to convey further details about the current situation of our military. First off, said Josef, we have received an updated communication from the Occasion Military Command. Their planes are being moved to Earlery Base as we speak. Under our supervision, of course. Keep an eye on them. Of course, Mr. President, Falcon Kruger said. Now let's move on to our military, said Josef. Which branch would you like to know about? What's the army? Situation. According to the latest report from Camp Strongarm, currently we field 6 armies, totaling approximately 400,000 active troops, which is a good amount. The real issue we're having is the quality, not the quantity. Current equipment status. Our army is quite outdated by today's military standards. Most of our equipment is 2 decades old. To make up for our lack of modern military equipment, we resort to a large number of soldiers, which is not really a long-term solution. No, it's not. I have been trying hard to reduce the negative effects of this problem, said Vulcan. We don't need a modernization program. A standard purchase of lacking equipment would do. We need more funding towards expanding the military size, otherwise our army will be seen as weak. Where exactly is our army deployed at right now? The first army is stationed at the Lesbian and Welland borders, direct the way to the central regions of Sordland. The second army, our largest force, has been situated by the Rumburg border. The Second Army is a large mountain commando force, and it is the most adequately equipped army to face Rumberg. The Third Army is near the Agnolian border and the coastal areas facing Volksland. Due to our bitter past, our coastal defence force is always on the alert. The decimation of our fleet still is not forgotten. How do we compare to other armies? Rumberg fields about 6 armies, amounting to 1 million soldiers. Lesbia fields 5 armies, which amount to 800,000 soldiers. Volksland field 1 army of about 140,000 soldiers. We have half the strength of Lesbia, much stronger than Volksland, and 40% of the Rumberg forces. That's actually quite significant, but we are back leveled on equipment. Billund field an army amounting to 100,000 soldiers, and Agnolia fields 2 armies with a total of 200,000. So we're the 3rd largest in the area. The sheer size of Rumberg's army is because of their forced conscription laws. Conscript aren't as good as regular soldiers. Due to their massive gold reserves, they are able to afford it. On the other hand, the Lesbian army is the most advanced, followed by Volkslandian army. Both of these countries put lots of money in modernizing their military, said Joseph. Curious about another branch. Very well. The Navy. Our Navy currently constitutes 59 ships with a total of 60,000 sailors and support staff. As you know, these ships are commanded from our main naval base in Conriat, where our flagship, SN Renan, is docked. How does our Navy compare? Our Navy is dwarfed by the size of Volksland. Yeah, that's understood. Which has 194 ships, and the Agnolian Navy, which has 81 ships. That's fine. We only surpass Lesbia in terms of Navy, as they have less than 30 ships. As you see, the situation is dire, but the solution is not just more ships. To make a truly better Navy, we need to equip our ships with modern radar and sonar system. More outdated ships wouldn't mean much. Which seas does our Navy currently patrol? Patrolling the Marcian Sea, the Grey Strait, and the Antician Sea. Our Navy protects all our coastal regions, said Vulcan. However, to make sure we are not thinning out our defence, we prioritise certain regions over others, like Greater Holsword. We often patrol the routes that are close to the shipping lanes, especially Marcian Sea and Grey Strait. The amount of cargo that goes through that area is eye-opening. Another thing to note, said Joseph, is after taking a takeover of Hedgeland, where our Navy has led incursion operations to protect Agnolia, we also take part in some joint military drills as well. How's our capability? Let's have a look at the other branches. Which one? The Air Force. Our currently has 410 planes in inventory, out of which only 140 are jets that are not in great condition. 30,000 pilots support staff work in the Air Force. They are commanded from the Mark Air Force Base in Ullery. What are our operational capabilities? Our planes can bomb targets within 400 km radius of their airfield. They have a medium range and are semi-effective nighttime bombing capabilities. At any time, we can field 7 air wings composing a total of 130 aircraft that can operate in combat duty. That is enough to subdue most targets. In terms of our bombing capability, we have an average of 100 meters of precision. This is not great, but it is still within the effective radius of the bombs. Our experience of the pilots. Our pilots have an average experience. They have a total of 450 hours flight time with aircraft. That doesn't sound a lot. Before they are qualified. Oh, to get qualified, okay. This gives them more than enough time to get used to it. This is low compared to the, I thought, thousands of 1,500 in other countries, like Acacia, United Cortana, Lesbia and Volksland. Normally, the hours per pilot should be higher, but due to the lack of funding, we can't increase the training times. Fuel costs are rather high. How does their Air Force work against other military branches? Or with other military branches? The Air Force is trained as an independent tactical support branch, which means it assists other branches but doesn't collaborate. This does cause some issues like friendly fire and missed close air support opportunities. There are ways to improve collaboration with joint operation rooms, said Vulcan. Something to think about, surely. Other branches? Anything specific? Let's move on. Let's clear his throat. The Ministry of Defence is disappointed about the lack of additional funds. We don't have them. We knew that keeping the same budget for the military would cause some concern for you, said Peter. What else? I'd be willing to support the military in other ways. We could come to an agreement. We request any support we can get at this point, said Joseph. The military circle has been moody after they heard the decision, said Vulcan. We expected more. We know that there have been high hopes, but the President has made his decision to prioritise other branches, said Peter. We are stuck between a rock and a hard place without money, said Vulcan. You have money, we just didn't increase it. The military suffers from budget overextension in order to keep up with other countries. Joseph let out a long sigh. No use complaining now, Vulcan. Let's look at what we can do with what we have. I've been planning to improve the quality of the armed forces by buying better military equipment. How would that be possible without funds, said Peter. It won't be, said Vulcan. There is one way, said Joseph. If we relieve half the forces that could create enough of a surplus, then we could invest in new equipment. Oh, God. Quality over quantity can be a very good thing. But aside from the power of the armed forces, there's something else playing on my mind here. We're in the middle of a recession. If we suddenly make half the armed forces unemployed, relieve them of duty, that's not going to help the recession. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people. Leaving half the armed force sounds risky at best and destructive at worst. Vulcan's eyes widened. We can barely match the size of half our neighbours, while the other half have armies 2 times bigger than ours, said Vulcan. How on earth would discharging half the armed force and buying new gear solve our defence issue? Vulcan raises valid questions. Quality over quantity is the right strategy for the future of warfare, said Joseph. Having a large force doesn't necessitate superiority. The reduction of the army would cause more employment. That's what I'm thinking, Peter. Which could hurt the administration. What do you think, Mr. President? Leave the military untouched. There is no reason to break a working structure and risk defence. The Swedish armed forces will stand strong, said Vulcan. We'll maintain our structure. Unfortunate, but as you wish, Mr. President, said Joseph. Joseph and Vulcan looked at each other. That will be all for today, then. Good work, everyone. I'd like to extend my thanks for your attendance, said Peter. The meeting concluded as the sun set over the concrete jungle that was Hall Sword. Sordland today. Second Kontanen satellite in space. Chairman Lou Melaniev addressed the world announcing the second successful satellite launch from Restano Air Base, which has now reached low Earth orbit. The chairman praised scientists and the UCOSM that allowed the country to reach space a second time. The functionality of the satellite was confirmed when radio contact was established after deployment. Agnolia. We're not going to do this now. Trade talks with Prime Minister of Agnolia. Right. Oh, we do have a report. We'll look at that. Education reforms. The Ministry of Education is reporting that massive overhaul of the education system is progressing slower than expected. Only a few schools in Sordland will collaborate in reduction of hours taught in citizenship, solism, and national subjects. Significant efforts are being made to lessen the political indoctrination in education, but are being met with resistance. Other changes which were supposed to happen in the curriculum, pedagogical improvements like improved teacher-student relations, and emphasis on critical thinking development weren't able to start due to a lack of workforce and funding. Minister Velder reports little progress, with most schools delaying the transformation on political grounds. Not what I'd like to see, but expected. Alright. And that's where we will leave it for today. I've been Yorkie the Talespinner. This has been following the tale of President Anton in Suzerain. I shall see you next time. Fare thee well.